Lighthouse Keeper's Log, December 11th, 1900. If MacArthur cheats at Monopoly one more time, I'm going to push him out of the lighthouse. Ducat is crying. Lighthouse Keeper's Log, December 12th, 1900. MacArthur played the last game fair square, but he took my race car. I opened the window today. Ducat is sobbing. Lighthouse Keeper's Log, December 13th, 1900. It came to blows with MacArthur today. I knew something wasn't right the second that he got a hotel on Boardwalk in the first 5 minutes. We cannot find Ducat. I shouldn't have opened the window. I'm just Cullen, and this is Anomalous.
Hello.
Hi.
I was talking to our audience, but...
I was also saying hello to them.
Oh.
Wow.
It's confusing.
Is it?
Yeah, because we're facing each other
Well,
now.
you said hello to me, and I didn't think that you were talking to me when you said hi. Because we've been having a conversation for the last 452 days.
That's fair. I'm confused.
Yeah, maybe we should start over.
Hello.
Hi.
Excuse you. I am not talking to you.
I was also talking to the audience.
Okay, hello, audience. I'm Spooky Maddie, and we are here today with Anomalous, and we talk about scary, spooky things and mysteries, and we have a fun time with it sometimes.
Sometimes we have a fun time with it.
Sometimes we have a horrid time with it.
Yeah, but you guys never get to see that. Join our Patreon to see the horrid times.
We are talking about the Flannan Isles Lighthouse mystery. It's too Australian. Before we get into that, some groundkeeping
Nice.
rules.
Groundskeeping Willie.
I hate to say it, you're a dork for being that into Simpsons.
I'm sorry, are you the one who also sat down and watched every episode from the very first one where they look like mutant creatures?
I hated that.
Yeah.
And it's not every episode. It's 6 out of 32.
You really do. You get mad every time they do a flashback to early seasons because you hate how they look.
Ugly.
They're expressive. That's what I'll say.
Oh my god.
So your housekeeping for this week.
I do not respect or support the Warrens.
Wow.
I want to make that very clear. I believe in ghosts, but more importantly, I believe victims. Ed Warren was a pedophile or rapist.
Yeah.
And Lorraine Warren, was an enabler. And so they were both trash. Don't confuse my want for like a fun ghost defeating couple as support for those trash heaps. And yeah, I absolutely believe the victim that came out against Ed Warren, and you should too, and you guys should all believe all the victims. So and yeah, that's my groundskeeping. There might be follow me on TikTok.
Very good. So this week we're covering the mystery of the Flannan Isles, which is sort of a fun tale of fairies and frolicking in the Scottish islands. And I'm really glad that we got just sort of talking about the pedophile Ed Warren out of the way first before we got into that.
So was the Scots... Were they colonized by England?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, England sort of, started to rule them and rule Ireland.
Fucked up. Now, do you feel solidarity with the Scots, or are you like, stop mixing us up?
It's like, when you were in school and you saw other kids that also got bullied, but like you didn't associate with them because that would be like too obvious. That's sort of the relationship that's going on.
Okay, yeah. You're all white, so I
know I'm all white. I feel all white.
Oh my god.
I'm doing all right.
Reverse racism doesn't exist. I'll admit that the Irish had it hard.
This can't be our episode about the missing people in the Scottish Isles who got attacked by fairies. It cannot be this episode.
The Flannan Isles Lighthouse mystery may seem at first like a simple case of a tragic group disappearance. However, it's set on the backdrop of distant abandoned islands beset by furious weather and Celtic superstition. The result is a story of isolation, fear, and humility that has no satisfying final act. For more than 100 years, researchers and artists alike have tried to discover what actually happened in the Lighthouse crew's final days, but the mystery endures. So today we're talking about 3 lighthouse keepers who mysteriously and tragically disappeared. It's reminding me of The Lighthouse.
A movie that we have not seen.
I want to see it.
Yeah?
I want to see it.
You only said that once you found out that there were gay stuff going on.
It's so clearly gay.
Oh my God.
And The Lighthouse itself, phallic.
She's a self-professed little trout for queer bait.
Oh my God. Yeah, just laugh at my tragedy of being queer baited constantly. It hurts.
At every single turn, she's queer baited some more.
Cowards. Everyone is a coward that's not gay. Well, the story we're going to be discussing takes place at a lighthouse on the island of Islandmore.
Very good.
One of 7 islands in the Scotland known as the Flannan Isles. In the Scotland.
It's funny because in our notes, like, you know how when they write like lyrics that are supposed to be sung, they put those little musical notes on either side so you know you're supposed to sing it? For this, they just have like little pictures of haggis on either side of Elin Moore, and you know you're supposed to hit it with the accent.
Who's haggis?
Haggis is sheep guts that they cook up and eat.
Ew, white people be crazy.
I want everyone please donate enough money that I can take Maddie only to the British Isles where we can have nothing but blood sausage and haggis and then fly straight back.
That is disgusting. And the one place, I got mad about it. One place I would never go on vacation is the fucking UK or
Wow.
England or whatever it's
Jesus.
called. That's lame as hell. It was, oh, fish and chips. Oh, you got a bit of fish. Oh, shut up.
Wow.
Lame.
Jesus.
I told you I'd get mad about
She
it.
gets mad about it.
I would never, ever, ever go to London.
Face it, you would love to go to London and see like the streets that Alex Turner moped on while writing his albums. You'd like to see the clubs and the back alleys where he smoked cigarettes while thinking about how much he loves his wife.
He doesn't have a wife. You always think he's married. You're like, Alex Turner's wife. Alex Turner, who? And by the way, they live in California now, so it's fine.
Oh my God. Fair enough.
Yeah. Here's something. Every time we watch a British TV show, I get so uncomfortable. I get like a fever. I throw up.
Okay, that happened only when you watched the Mr. Creosote sketch where he pukes all over this French restaurant.
No, every time you try to show me old British shows, I get so uncomfortable.
I don't know what it is.
I
Yeah,
don't know
you
what
are
it-
just averse to like their way of talking.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And
You
I
are-
feel like I'm in a surreal nightmare. So the 7 islands of the Flannan Isles are also known as the 7 Hunters, which has very little to do with the story, but is pretty interesting.
I think so. That's why I shoehorned it in there.
Yep, that's why you wrote that.
The 7 Hunters. I'm having fun with this.
That's nice. The island of Elin Moor has a history of the paranormal. For decades and probably much longer before today's story, the island was known for its unsettling aura. Locals seem to consider the all but deserted island a land which was partially in the other world. Does it have an unsettling aura, or is it just from the UK?
I think it's one of those like feedback loops because the island is like almost entirely abandoned. Everyone specifies that it only has sheep on there. But the thing is like you have this empty island and then it's going to be creepy to go there. You know, if you're just standing there and all the sheep are looking up at you with their black eyes and there's literally nothing else around, it's probably going to be creepy. You're not going to go there, lead to it being abandoned some more.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people being like, well, there's sheep. It's the only thing. There's only
Yeah.
sheep on there. But yeah, I feel like in that area, when it's all gloomy all the time, could make for some real creep factor. You know, how the people look just, they look weird.
She's looking at a sheep right now. This Scottish dude's got the fucking, I hate his hair. Also, the Scottish people probably just recognize that it's not a smart place to like build houses and stuff. At least on Eilean Mor, which is one of the 7, the weather's really, really bad.
Yeah, makes sense to me. It's archetypal.
And I know what that means. So we can just move on.
Cool. So, the only structure of note on the island besides the lighthouse was a chapel built by Irish monk Saint Flannan. After building the chapel, Flannan and his following fled the isle, claiming they were tormented by small, otherworldly creatures known as the Lesbearden. It feels homophobic that it sounds so similar to lesbian.
Lesburden.
This is my Lesbearden to hold.
That's very fun.
Yeah, so I think these were the original, like, how tall are you?
Oh my
Or
God.
are they just like short ass?
I mean, it does beg the question. I don't want to be mean to anyone here, but the Irish monk Saint Flannan probably wasn't 6'2". He was probably like, you know, my dad or shorter, so like mid 5 foot. Mm-hmm. So to have like little people tormenting them, how small are we? We're talking like little fairies here.
Yeah, midgets.
I mean, that's the assumption.
I said that in a way that it's dark humor, that it's satire, so don't cancel me. But also, you were like, oh, I was half asleep. I got like no sleep last night, okay? And you're like, oh, this is fun, like little pixie eyes known as the Lesbiarden. And I was like, I know you're not talking about leprechauns. Are you sure
Oh
they're not
my
leprechauns? How aren't they leprechauns?
The name is suspiciously close. It's Lesbiarden kind of sounds like knockoff dollar store leprechauns.
Honestly.
Saint Flannan was like, if only I could have capitalized on the good money that Ireland's been making off of the leprechaun. Maybe I have a plan. I go over to Scotland and I get tormented by these little tiny creatures. They've got a pot of gold. You see them at the end of a rainbow, but they're the Lesbiarden. And then I sort of market them here. That's just good business. That's seeing a market without a product that it needs.
How do you feel as a blind Irish person, just the ableism jumping out? Like all of the UK has mythology of just small people, and they're like, oh my God. They were probably just like dwarves or something.
Yeah, they probably were. But they sounded like they were bothersome.
Okay.
Okay, let's be very clear. If little people in regular life wanted to, they could be forces of pure mischief. Because when you're turning around a corner, you're opening up a cupboard, you're looking inside of the ice chest to get a beer, you're not expecting a person half the size of a regular person with the brain of an adult ready to scare you out of your wits. I'm not saying that they do this.
You're scared
but
of
I'm saying
them.
that they could do this. And that makes them very powerful. It's a powerful force to reckon with.
Are they trying to scare you, or
I don't know. I'm worried that they could. I think that a preemptive strike might be in order. We need to scare the little people.
Ableist, it's hateful, it's eugenical.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, from this point on, with the abandonment of the Isle by Saint Flannan, you know, being attacked by those little guys, locals were wary of the island and reportedly refused to spend the night there, which, I mean, they didn't really have many places to spend the night, so fair enough.
I also don't spend the night just like I walk onto an abandoned island and sleep on the ground.
Yeah, who's just like, let me sleep on an island today. Yeah, so this isle has had lore even before the disappearance. Despite this, however, a lighthouse was needed in the area, and it was built on Eilean Mor, finished in 1899. One of the first crews of the lighthouse was made up of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur, plus a fourth man who rotated with MacArthur and was on shore at the time of the incident. All three were experienced lighthouse keepers.
So this was literally, it seems like, the first ones to ever crew the lighthouse.
Yeah, and all of these crew had already had experience.
I don't understand the lighthouse circuit. I've always imagined like old men doing a lighthouse.
Oh, yeah.
So I would think you just get in one and sort of stick it out.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. I mean, I've read like fucking fantasy stories with like lighthouse keepers. And it was like, oh, my father was the town's lighthouse keeper, and now I'm going to be the town's lighthouse keeper. But maybe because this was like an abandoned island, it was kind of just like a shit gig.
Is it one of those like weird things that you don't expect to need to get a degree for, like being a librarian?
Hateful. We had this conversation last night.
I don't
and
understand
it's hateful.
What I don't get, and please don't correct me if I'm wrong about this. I don't understand how you can get paid a minimum wage at a Barnes and Noble and learn how to stock the shelves and like find books and stuff. And that's just like a job that you have. But a librarian, you need to go and get like a bachelor's degree in library sciences. I don't get that.
It's times like this when I wish Irish people were still even more oppressed.
Jesus.
It's library science. You got to know the Dewey Decimal System. And yeah, you don't know shit about it, okay? You haven't done any research on it. You don't know shit about it.
The books in a Barnes & Noble also have Dewey Decimal numbers on them. Yeah, they do.
No,
they totally do.
No, they don't. They're not being arranged by the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
I think that they are, probably.
No, I think it's by author's last name.
Well, maybe that works better, honestly.
How dare you? It's Dewey's system.
Dewey sucks.
Oh my.
Okay. If guys down at the Jiffy Lube were getting entry-level positions where they were able to build bridges in town, I would re-examine my need for an engineering degree. But that's not the case. But a librarian walks into Barnes & Noble, looks around, they can pick up pointers. Because honestly, it's often easier to find stuff in a Barnes & Noble than it is to find it in a library.
It's so different. Barnes & Noble it's so different.
It's assorting books. It's putting books in order.
Person I've ever met. And all of this is to say I knew exactly one library sciences major, and she was the most insufferable person I have ever met.
Of course. I think you have more useful outlook than a library sciences person just with like your library, which is mostly assembled by color.
Not assembled by color.
It's partially assembled by color.
Genre and shit.
Genre and then color. And height is a big factor. The size of the books is very important.
It just can't be all over the place. Like the fact that you just have no respect for the Dewey Decimal System grinds my gears, and you just don't know anything about it, okay? You're ignorant.
Oh, well.
Okay, so
Oh, great. This is turning into one of your best impressions.
Yeah, this is my impression of you. Okay, I don't use fucking watts. I don't use watt. I don't say learning how to do watts is stupid. From physics.
You should know how to like look at the wattage something
I don't know how to.
Well, that's on you.
Well, you should know how to find a book in the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, I can do it because all you have to do is walk up to one of the computers that every Barnes and Noble and library has and just be like, where's this book? And then it tells you where it is in the store. How hard is that? And also, if this entire thing is just going to end up with you asking what kind of bulb you need to put in your lamp, that's fine, but we don't need to have this argument.
I'm just saying that you need to be better. Well, this lighthouse was built on Island Murray.
Let's get a supercut of all the different ways you pronounce it.
Adding flavor. So this lighthouse was built 1899. We got our first crew in. However, fairly quickly, the first sign something was wrong at the lighthouse came on December 15th, 1900.
That's not a very long time after it started.
No. On that day, the steamboat Arctur passed the Flannan Isles as it finished with its trip from Philadelphia to Leith, Scotland.
And that has to be one of the most challenging possible conversations to listen to. A group of like sailors from Philadelphia trying to talk to a group of sailors from Scotland is just a brutal mash of accents smashing together.
Honestly. They weren't sailors, though, right? They were steamboaters.
Yeah, I think that they still held on to the whole sailor thing incorrectly.
Fakers.
I hate steamboats.
Oh, my God.
If you know one thing about me, just Cullen, I hate steamboats.
He really hates them.
Stupid. Hate them.
Are you quite done?
We'll see.
So the crew of...
Hate a steamboat.
Oh, my. The crew of the Arctur noted that the lighthouse was not lit, offering no assistance in the bad weather. Not what you want from your lighthouse at all.
That's the exact opposite you want from your lighthouse. They call it a dark house. So if they didn't want it to be lit up, they would call it a dark house. Or an unlit house. No lighthouse would be a good name for it if it didn't have a light.
Thankfully, despite the lighthouse being the dark house, Arctur made it...
Okay, now that sounds racist, actually.
Oh, my Lord. Thankfully, the Arctur still made it safely to Leith. Once landed, the captain of the Arctur reported the unlit lighthouse to the Northern Lighthouse Board.
One of the most exciting organizations you've ever heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Party a week at the Northern Lighthouse Board.
Mm-hmm.
Even after the Northern Lighthouse Board got the news, there was some delay in sending people to help Elon Moore. And I genuinely blame the accent issue between the Philadelphia captain and the Scottish man at the Northern Lighthouse Board. It probably took 3 translators working in tandem to try to get it from Scottish English to Philadelphian English.
Well, I feel like they just sent a telegram and the accent wasn't an issue, but getting it delivered. So there was immediate concern for the Flannan Isles lighthouse, but the season's bad weather made a quick response impossible.
They tried to leave just a couple days afterwards to send a boat to go see what was going on, but the weather was so bad that day that they just had to postpone it, I think.
It would be 8 days before help arrived at the lighthouse. When the relief boat Hesperus, captained by Jim Harvey, made it to the isle, it was an eerie scene left behind. Captain Harvey first noticed that the lighthouse wasn't flying a flag. Next, he saw supply boxes had been left on the landing for the lighthouse, as they would be for a routine restocking.
So at first it seems like that's a little bit odd, but at least like these boxes are out, so maybe they were expecting someone to come by.
But most ominously, none of the lighthouse crew had come down to greet the approaching ship, as they always would.
It's like when you come back from your 4 hours at work and Creature doesn't get off of the couch to say hi to you, and you're just pout with him for the rest of the day.
It's rude. Okay, it's disrespectful.
It is disrespectful.
It hurts my feelings that he doesn't come and greet me, that he'll just be asleep.
Sometimes he won't even wake up when you come and see him.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up.
It's so rude. So the relief ship Hesperus tried to make contact with the lighthouse crew by blowing the whistle, Awooga, and firing off a flare, but the isle still showed no signs of life. Hesperus sent a few men onto the island to investigate, led by lighthouse keeper Joseph Moore. The team began to investigate and found that the doors to the lighthouse were closed. Inside, there was still no sign of the men, but things were mostly in order. The lamps had been cleaned and filled with oil. The men's beds were unmade, and there was an overturned chair on the floor. All of the clocks were stopped.
Ooh.
That's very creepy.
Always spooky.
One set of the missing men's protective gear was still hung up on the wall. Like many other disappearance cases, there were later claims that there were meals left uneaten on the table. However, there does not seem to be any evidence to support that.
That's literally just like, I'm writing a magazine article. Let me tack that on. They did that to the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
They did it with Croatoa. They did it with... Anytime people disappear from somewhere, they're like, they left a half-eaten Hot Pocket still sitting on the dining room table.
It adds an ominous flavor because if there's one thing you're not going to start your life over during, it's a nice meal.
Yeah. I mean, our house has been actively broken into and you finished your Dunkin' Donuts before you started to deal with the armed robbery.
It's like, hold on, I'm getting to the good part, the chocolate cream part. For breakfast, I had 2 slices of Pizza Hut pizza, a Shamrock Shake, a donut from Dunkin' Donuts, and candy.
Yeah, a fair amount of candy. Always remember that moment after, like, we got out of our first 3 months of quarantine where we just ate anything we wanted, no matter what, to try to deal with the horror. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you remember that morning that all I had for breakfast was a large frozen chocolate from Dunkin' Donuts? What was I doing?
I never said that. You, in your fantasy, you're the man's fantasy. No.
You admitted that that you felt weird in hindsight just eating frozen chocolate for breakfast.
You get so mad.
Especially
you get so
'cause
mad at me. Dunkin' is selling it, aren't they? They're selling it in the morning.
They don't market it as a breakfast item. They
It's
just
all
offer,
breakfast items.
They just offer all of their foods all day, as should all restaurants.
I don't know why you're so offended. Okay, sometimes people have hot chocolate for breakfast.
See,
and
that's weird too.
what's the difference between a frozen chocolate and a mocha frap or something for breakfast?
Well, I don't respect fraps. I'm out here disrespecting a frap.
Yeah, well, you had the freaking Charlie D'Amelio cold brew this morning. How is that okay for breakfast?
Who the fuck is Charlie D'Amelio? Did he paint the 17th Chapel?
Follow me on TikTok at Queef Latina.
Very good.
So, this isn't good signs.
Yeah. If you're a team of lighthouse keepers, typically you don't take the afternoon to go walk around the deserted islands and talk to the sheep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, something is clearly wrong when the light isn't on, and that's like the whole purpose.
That's sort of what they do.
So, later stories of the disappearance would talk about ominous log entries kept by Thomas Marshall from December 12th to 15th. He wrote, there are, quote, severe winds, the likes of which I have never seen before in 20 years, end quote. Between weather reports, he said that Ducat had grown very quiet and MacArthur had been crying. All 3 prayed. Finally, on December 15th, Marshall wrote, quote, storm ended, sea calm, God is over all, end quote. That is really scary. Unfortunately, these logs turned out to be fiction written long after the disappearances, and they don't really make sense for several reasons.
So first of all, there weren't like reports of storms on those days, but that's a boring reason to not believe these. The truth is, okay, you work in a lab, Maddie, and you have to like keep a lab notebook of what's going on. And there's a bunch of jobs like people who run ships, I think still have to do logs every day, like captain's logs of what's going on. And they're not diaries like they become in like all of these Sherlock Holmes books where it's just like they write whatever they feel like. You don't write down all the TikToks you recently watched in your lab notebook because your boss is going to read that at some point, presumably.
That's fair.
So this guy, him writing that his boss was like getting all quiet and moody and that his coworker was crying would be such a comically inappropriate thing to include. Imagine sending a memo to your superior and being like, yeah, my boss was being a little bit of a bitchling today.
Oh my gosh.
I tried to talk to him and he just gave me the cold shoulder. I'm starting to think that maybe our love relationship is starting to affect our work.
Damn, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, email, like, update, presentation. It was like, 3rd slide. It's like, this is where my coworker was being a real bitch.
This slide would have been really good if they weren't just like slacking off and playing Candy Crush at their desk while I was working on the presentation. I mean, they're such a drag.
Okay, with all your modern day references.
It's funny because they're in the past, but what if they did things that are from today?
That's
funny. That's the joke.
Unfortunately, it is true that I got in trouble at work for being like DNA quantification, procedure, step 1, fill the plate with AT buffer, in parentheses, my booty itchy.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. So you are right. Some people learn that lesson the hard way, though.
I honestly think that you could sue them for that because it's not like you wrote in there that you scratched your butt.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're telling them that you're a model employee, that you felt that happening and you didn't act on it.
It's like they wanted to know the procedure. It's like, well, It was a part of my life at that moment.
If it happens every time, it's part of the procedure.
Yeah, honestly.
I think that you might have gotten in slightly more trouble for opening each entry with "Dear Shitbirds."
Oh my God. Dear Dumb Diary. They're like, this is going to our funders.
Dear Big Brother Overlord Boss, who quote unquote tells me what to do.
Oh my God. All my entries are dated 1984. Here's my impression of, I tell Matthew McConaughey that actually it's a common misconception and that these log entries didn't exist. Be a lot cooler if they did. All right.
Really, really good stuff, Maddie. Keep it up.
Thank you. So, having found no sign of the Lighthouse crew, the rescue party began to search the island. Despite searching the entire island, no one ever found even a trace of the 3 missing men. However, the search team did find signs of the horrific weather conditions that had been raging on the island.
And this is genuinely frightening. Holy fuck. Some of the shit that they saw once they were there. And even the investigators that would come after them, that we'll talk about in a minute, were like, we genuinely didn't believe this until we came and saw it for ourselves.
Yeah, so some of these scary details, the strength of you don't want to mess with Big Mama Nature. Heavy iron railings had been bent like Laffy Taffy. Shake the Laffy Taffy. The Laffy Taffy.
3 men are dead.
And a section of iron structure had been ripped from its concrete foundation.
Like it was ripping the iron railing up out of the concrete that it was poured around it. And then on top of that, the sections of it were just like bent completely around.
I hate that.
I hate that.
So a boulder weighing upwards of a ton had been visibly moved. Another terrifying effect on the island that they were able to find was that the ground had been torn apart on a cliff more than 200 feet above sea level.
That's fucked up. Like if you're on a cliff 200 feet up, you're probably like, this is fine. I'm fine here. I'm on the top of a 20-story building. It should be all right.
That is very scary. It really is.
Big Mama Nature doesn't fuck around.
And the sea. So Relief Lighthouse Keeper Moore and the 3 sailors stayed to look after the lighthouse while Captain Harvey returned to shore on the Hesperus. Harvey sent this telegram back to the Northern Lighthouse Board. Quote, a dreadful accident has happened at the Flannans. 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the Occasional, had disappeared from the island. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows, they must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane, end quote.
And that's a theory we'll talk about more. But one thing I want to touch on really quickly is the clock stopping, which is a frightening thing that I feel like has shown up a lot in 70s and after that hauntings. You know, like clock stopping or like paranormal events. Abductions, too, have a lot of clock stoppages. But in this case, it does kind of have a mundane explanation in that clocks were just wound up back in the day. So if they were missing, they just would have wound down and stopped naturally.
That does make sense. So that's really all we have on the story, and it's something of note that the first people who kind of discovered they were gone and investigated were like, seems like the weather got them. They were thrown off a cliff or something natural.
It is a natural fact that lighthouses are built in places with horrible weather because that's where they're needed. So if you're investigating issues at a lighthouse, that's, you know, a really obvious first guess.
Yeah, so kind of going into theories, well, let's start with an official theory. So the official investigation by the Northern Lighthouse Board was conducted by Robert Muirhead on December 29th, 1900. Notice they got a little Christmas break in there. That's nice.
That's nice for them.
They concluded that the lighthouse keepers were securing a box that contained ropes in the heavy rain when they were swept away by a giant wave. The theory went that you know, it was storming. There was some heavy rain. So they were like, we need to secure this box. And then they were unfortunately swept away. The box that they were referring to was located in a crevice 110 feet above sea level. Muir had concluded that the wave had gone above them and took them out to sea. And this lines up with the fact that there was damage up to like 200 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
Kind of the official term would be a giant freak wave. That's actually a thing.
That's going to be the name of our fan group.
Get on our giant freak wave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So the giant freak wave is a commonly accepted theory nowadays. Geographical research done on the islands indicates that the West Landing is situated in a narrow gully that ends in a cave. It was noted that during storms or high sea, water would rush into the cave and then forcefully expel right where the lighthouse was and where they would be. Keeping this in mind, many believe that MacArthur may have witnessed a series of waves, knew that this was not good, knew that there was some danger, went to warn the others while the others were busy securing that box or securing other equipment when MacArthur was swept away, and obviously the other two men were swept away. So he was trying to warn them.
So the reason that he would have been up in the lighthouse by himself originally while the other two went to go secure that equipment is because the board requires that at least one person stays in the lighthouse so that there's always someone to like tend after to make sure that the light keeps running, even if something goes wrong. But yeah, I could just totally see that happening because you'd see, from what you said, you'd see the water rush in and he'd know that that would produce a wave that could hit them.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense. A big detail was about how one of the men wasn't in their protective gear. And so if it was MacArthur running out to warn them, he wouldn't be stopping to get ready to hang out outside.
He might have jumped up from his chair, knocked that over, run out without getting his coat on because he was, in a rush to save them.
Yeah, that's very tragic. And I understand that, there might be a policy that's like, stay in no matter what. But if you see your coworkers are about to be wiped out.
Plus, I remember reading that MacArthur was kind of a fiery individual.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably would have disregarded that and run out to try to do something.
That's fair.
So I think the most mundane and believable piece of evidence to suggest that that's what was happening is that a while before, one of the lighthouse keepers had been fined because one of those boxes of ropes that they were trying to secure had washed away a few weeks before. Mm-hmm. And he got 5 shillings or something, made up old fantasy money taken away from his paycheck because it had gotten washed out to sea. So if another storm came along and started to crash down on that box, he's like, oh my God, oh Gamora, another 5 shillings. I can't take it. He runs down there. I mean, that is the sort of gruff, literally they have their mustaches down to their lower lip. That's not false. You can look at the photo. That would be their motivation. It's just fuck the weather and the wind. I'm not gonna let another box float away and get fined for it.
I hate to say it because I prefer fun. There's pretty much nothing that is out of place with this theory. It seems completely plausible.
As long as you believe that MacArthur would have made that choice to run down there and that he had the opportunity to see that it was going to happen.
I don't think that's the biggest jump.
No, it's not the biggest. It's a little bit of a stumbling block, but conveniences happen every day.
So in a variation on this theory, later Flannan Island lighthouse keeper Walter Aldebert theorized that one man had fallen into the sea and the other men were swept away by a wave while trying to rescue him.
That's kind of a nice story. I mean, it's horribly tragic, but that they would both run out there and try to save him.
Yeah. It's very sad.
Very sad. And horrifying. I think that's something that leads to this story being remembered so much is that imagine yourself on this rock in the middle of the ocean being pelted constantly by giant storms and there's nothing. Mm-hmm. You don't have a boat. You can't leave. You just have to see it through and try to survive it.
There's this sense of cosmic dread, honestly. Yeah. And that's what I think Robert Eggers saw and was like, I'm going to do my thing.
I'm going to do my thing.
I really want to watch that movie. I I want to watch it so bad.
Yeah, we could watch it.
And
I
not
mean,
just
we could
because
watch.
the Robert Pattinson yoinking it scene.
What? Come on. What do we see? He masturbates. He checks off.
You haven't seen that?
No.
It's a gay movie.
It's not. I mean, it's not gay to jerk off. Yeah, you're touching a dick, but it's your dick.
You're touching a dick.
You're jerking off a dick, but it's your dick.
You're jerking off a dick.
You're jerking off your dick.
You are touching a dick and moving up and down with your hand.
Yes. But it's my dick. So
Okay,
it's
but you
fine.
said you wouldn't give yourself a blowjob.
No, because I've heard it feels more like sucking dick than getting your dick sucked.
Oh my God.
I would say that shouldn't be surprising because the laws of thermodynamics say that you never get more work out of a machine than you put in. So you're definitely going to have to suck more than you get sucked because that's just how the mechanics of our universe work. There's some entropy loss between your effort put in giving yourself the spin cycle 2000 and getting your knob slobbed on.
I just got a text from my parents. They said that I'm disowned and you're never welcome in their house ever, 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 ever again.
That's tough to hear.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard for me to deal with.
Easy to understand.
Yeah, totally. No, if I could say one more thing to them, and I know that I'm not allowed to, it would be, I stick by my guns.
Oh my God. So other theories indicate that perhaps a play most foul occurred.
Ooh, these are some fun ones here.
I guess your dark, twisted mind.
I think the reason that it's intriguing to me is it's such a play setup. To have just 3 people stuck in a lighthouse and then there's foul play involved is such like a novel.
Oh yeah, Agatha Christie's rolling around in her racist ass grave.
Her grave itself is racist. Someone should destroy that headstone.
She's racist in it.
Yeah, but she didn't like put a slur on her.
She might
epithet.
have. I
Who's to
really don't
say?
know.
Who's to say? We should go change that.
Yeah, honestly. So apparently MacArthur, which we may have mentioned earlier, was very quick to anger and often violent. Some theorize that a fight broke out among the men near the edge of a cliff, leading to them all falling to their death. Tragic, and you are right, kind of theatrical.
Definitely theatrical. MacArthur was a mariner, like a seagoing man beforehand in the Navy, and he was known for like brawling and stuff. He's basically a guy that like you accidentally say some old-timey insult to, and he puts up that like 1900s fisticuffs thing where his front hand's just like really far out, and his main concern with his backhand is like guarding his big tummy. Like the face is nothing. You can punch him in the face all day and he's not gonna have a trouble.
And he's shirtless.
We've already established that he probably ran out into this typhoon shirtless to go help his friends. I don't know if this man was capable of putting clothes on his back.
Oh my gosh. Others theorize that a murder-suicide may have occurred. So it's possible that one man, maybe MacArthur, killed his colleagues, dumped them in the sea, and then jumped in the sea himself.
That's just an explanation to get rid of the third man. Maybe he did it and he was just thinking to himself like, I wonder who the Lighthouse board is going to suspect when they show up here.
Damn.
There's 2 of these guys murdered, and then there's me. He starts looking at sheep, trying to like see which one looks like the most hard. Like it might be accused. It's a usual suspect.
Well, I think he could have been like, I was up in the lighthouse and they unfortunately fell in the ocean, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
At least he would have his life intact.
That's fair.
Many of these theories involving foul play suggest that one or all or 2 of the men went mad during their time on the lighthouse. That's a common theme. Fiction and reality, it's this isolated lighthouse on an isolated island, the Shining vibes.
Yeah, definitely Shining vibes. I remember reading that research paper that you're referring to here, a theory about the Flannan Isles lighthouse disappearance, postulating that between 1 and 3 of the men lost their minds.
Oh yeah, integer value between 1 and 3. So just gotta have this theory in there that some suspect that the men were abducted by foreign spies. It's mentioned briefly in a few sources, but there are no details as to where the spies would be from, why they would be interested.
Yeah, I don't really understand this theory that much. First of all, I don't know what secrets that lighthouse keepers are being told. Maybe a foreign agent could come in and try to shut down the lighthouse to endanger ships coming by. But seems to me like you would do that at a lighthouse that was a staple, like really necessary. Clearly, ships have been navigating the Flannan Isles for a long time, somewhat successfully, because it had only been built in 1899, a year before all of this happened. So it's not like ships were relying life and death on this lighthouse.
I don't know what saucy information they could hold. It's not like they're like, oh, it's the president of the United States, Charlie.
Yeah.
And I'm just taking the pistulation here.
Was that speculation and taking the piss?
Postulating and taking the piss.
Very good.
Maybe it could be with MacArthur being part of like some sort of military in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that there's much to point to this theory whatsoever. But you know what I'll say? I would like to believe that the cases that seem the least like it could be spies are the ones where it's spies. When it's like big cases like the Istal woman, it's like, oh my God, she was obviously a spy. It's like, not a good one then.
Wow.
That's not good then.
Yeah.
I don't know. Makes you think, I guess.
That's fair.
Or don't. Save your brain cells. So some theories use more supernatural explanations. Early popular theories include the men being attacked and killed by some sort of monster. So there's a theory that the men were picked up and carried away by a giant seabird, like the evil foil of the eagles from The Lord of the Rings, not the band. Maybe the band.
Possibly the band. Giant birds were part of the mythos of Elon Moore beforehand. Just like the little people that ran St. Flannan off. They talked about like these giant seabirds, like giant albatrosses, and come pick the men up like trouts. Big birds, little people. Crazy world.
One of those things that if you go back like the Ningen, I'm like, yeah, could be. Or like dragons. It's like, well, ever seen a lizard? Because there are really big birds, and not just big bird, but like albatross are huge.
They're giant.
So I could see that, honestly. I think it makes sense. I mean,
like a mythical Celtic albatross coming in and swooping and grabbing them.
Just like an extra large albatross, yeah.
It sees these little Scottish snacks out on the cliffs, comes grabs them. They grabbed MacArthur and he's still shirtless and he's just like punching he's punching the belly of the albatross as it carries them off to its. Do they have nests or they just like sleep on a wave?
Like big old nest. I could see that. Another similar theory is that the men were attacked by a sea serpent.
A classic.
Classic, yeah.
I mean, Scotland is known for obviously Loch Ness.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Maybe old Nessie, a couple decades before she became really popular, slunk out of her lake there into the sea and grabbed a couple of these Scottish guys for a little bit of a snack.
Maybe a Loch Ness monster is endangered and there were more back then.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. If there are these giant animals in the ocean, doesn't it make sense from like an ecology perspective that in the past they would have been more plentiful before we started to affect the pH balance of the ocean and everything?
Oh, yeah. And it's another thing with the sea serpents and Loch Ness. Don't come for me because I am not a flat earther. I don't really believe in conspiracy theories. I'm not racist. I'm a socialist. So don't come for me.
This is the best YouTuber apology I've ever heard.
Oh my God. But I like sea serpents. Okay, yeah, a giant fucking snake in the ocean. I believe that. There are huge animals in the ocean that are so scary looking. I've talked about this before. And I saw something recently. It's like a giant eel, like 72 fucking feet long or something.
Yeah.
So
it would only have to get like 30 feet up the cliffs in order to swing its like the end of its 73-foot tail up to grab one of the boys. I mean, the waves were crashing as they were like securing the boxes. One of the eels rides a wave up, grabs one of them, and then it's just gone back.
Slithers down.
Yeah, slithers right down.
Ooh, that's scary. So, one theory that was thought to be popularized by the Phantom of the Seven Hunters was that the men were attacked by a ghost ship that was filled with actual ghosts, actual vengeful phantoms.
This is one of the few times where Just Cullen is only on board because of how fucking cool that is.
I'm gonna be honest, not a lot of like evidence for this one.
Hard to come across ghost ship, ghost crew, Pirates of the Caribbean 1 style evidence. But here's a little bit of evidence for you. Ghost ship of the Seven Hunter Isles. Mm-hmm. There's your evidence, you fuckers. So the idea is that this ghost ship felt the presence of these three men that aren't supposed to be on these abandoned paranormal isles. I imagine that they would have spirited them away.
Wow.
I mean, that is a thing in Celtic lore, is people from the other world basically abducting people from the corporeal world and bringing them off. That happens in a lot of traditional stories in Ireland and Scotland.
That's interesting. That makes sense. I think it would be really scary if you think of like, oh, turn the light on. There's a ship coming. But then that's the thing. You see it as a normal ship for the light, and then it comes and it docks, and it's a freaking ghost ship filled with ghosts.
The interpretation of people in Scotland around there that knew about these isles is that it's kind of one of those areas where the line between the other world and the real world is like thinned out.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they have the lighthouse and they see a ship in the distance, they assume it's a real one. They beckon it towards them or like try to direct it, but it's not a real ship. It's a ship from the other world because they're shining their light through that thin barrier into the other world.
I think that's similar to another theory that I see kind of combined with like alien abduction, that they somehow got into some sort of portal to like an alternate dimension or another universe or something. You know, a lot of people point to the symbolism of the broken clocks.
Really, alien abductions, I feel like just a modern interpretation of that same story of being spirited away into the other world.
Yeah, exactly. So there are these theories that whether you want to look at it more sci-fi or fantasy through those lenses, they are no longer in this world or this plane.
Right.
The final supernatural explanation could be, of course, that they were attacked by the little fairy people of the island, the lesbians.
Nice. I hate to bring up what I said before, but they seem like mischievous little men.
Oh my God.
Agents of pure mischief.
Honestly, you know, don't get me on the lesbian islands.
You know those typical like Target signs where it's like, this house is full of love?
Yeah.
Like, you put up a sign that I think you had to have custom made that said, no mischief in this house.
I think we're talking about two different things here. You're talking about mischief, and I'm saying I would love to be on an island of lesbians.
Yeah, you've made that almost insultingly
Are you
clear.
just trying to ignore me? You're like, I hate what you.
All right, so what's the next thing on the notes there? After the lesbian island? Okay, so this whole last page is lesbian island. So, wow, that's very graphic.
Oh my God.
You're allowed to host stuff like that on Google Drives?
Nice. I was thinking where you were going with your joke about no mischief of a sign I would put in our house. That's like, in this home, we lesbians.
But it's very difficult because you're the only girl in the house. We only have one shot at lesbian in this house. And I hate to say it, you're with me. You missed the mark on that. You shot and you missed and you ended up in bi. And that's respectable. That's respectable.
You still respect it. You have to respect my bisexuality.
But a house of lesbians, we are not.
I just think I'm lesbian enough for our whole household.
That's nice.
So for the last theory, some people take a little hopeful look at it. And, you know, I am obsessed with Okay, I don't want to say it like that. I love it when people disappear. But I'm really interested in disappearance stories. And so this theory comes up often, always does. So some believe that the lighthouse keepers may have actually survived. And in fact, some theorize that the men disappeared to start a new life and they plan to stage a disaster, when in reality, they had already planned an escape. Perhaps they had a ship pick them up and just, bring them somewhere else to start over, and they had arranged to start their new life. I think it's more possible back in those olden days without freaking Steve Jobs looking at my freaking face.
Staring through my phone, looking at my face, looking at my whatever on the other side, my little toes.
Ew. He loves them. Because, if someone was like, no one's ever seen them again, it's like, how hard did you look?
Yeah. Are you really searching the entire world? Are you Carmen Sandiegoing after these 3 Scottish seamen?
Honestly. And yeah, if they went to a different country.
Very difficult for the Scottish Lighthouse Board to go find them. Very, very easy for the people of that country to notice them.
Damn.
But has it gotten harder? They have to send out a signal flare, and they have to get a ship to swing by and pick them up. When you feel like leaving work before you're supposed to, you just get up and leave. Mm-hmm. You just drive home.
Yeah, well, the theory is that they arranged this beforehand.
Oh, okay. Well, when you tell me I'm going to go into work for exactly 1 hour to do my work, and then we're going to go back to going to Bookman's.
Expose me much? Narc. Yeah, no, it's more like when I get into work and I order Beyond Bread for us at 1:30 and I'm like, I have to go. I'm locked in.
Yeah, that Beyond Bread is a hard cutoff for when you need to leave. There's been days where you needed to take Creature to the vet and you were like, there's a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe I can stay a few minutes more and do a couple more slides. But if Beyond Bread needs to be picked up at 1:15 and that pizza pepperoni could become soggy, you're out the fucking door at 1 o'clock or a couple minutes before, but not a moment after.
I refuse. I am human. I'm someone who deserves respect. I deserve Beyond Bread. I deserve a good ass lunch. I deserve humanity.
So those are our theories for how these men could have disappeared. Obviously, the thing with this one is we have a reasonable explanation, but even for that explanation, there isn't really a lot of evidence. We don't have anything that empirically even implies that they were all taken out by a freak wave. It just makes the most sense because of their environment. We have just as much evidence to say, and don't you dare, I know that I'm recording this, but don't remember this for later.
Oh my God.
We have just as much evidence to say that it could have been some sort of otherworldly contact. I have ruined my entire home life with this.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I try to be like, well, if you think about it logically, and she's going to make fun of me for going on Reddit.
Way to not be euphoric.
Wow.
What are you, stupid?
But that's the interesting thing about this story for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a couple reasonable explanations, and it's a further leap to go for things like foul play, and then a further leap to go to other elements like sea monsters. But there's really nothing in stone to suggest one thing or another. Mm-hmm. Yes, there was really bad weather that destroyed the island, but that doesn't imply anything precisely about what happened to these men.
Yeah, and if you want to take it a step further, it may not have been the weather that destroyed the island.
Yeah, definitely.
I completely agree. I think that is a lot of the appeal of this case, and why it's withstood the test of time is because it's not a lot of evidence. This is something huge and tragic that happened, but there's not much to indicate one way or another what happened, and it's very open-ended. And yeah, a lot of theories could make sense, and they could be believable.
And I think that imprint, that scene of showing up on this far off island that's almost entirely abandoned, and the only thing there is this lighthouse, and that's just dead quiet, but there's no signs of anything being turned up. There's no signs of violence. It's just there's no one there. Mm-hmm. I think that idea and the mystery behind it really will keep this case in the front of people's minds for a really long time.
Yeah, definitely. And even as someone who isn't as into semen as you are,
Okay. All right. Come on.
it's very atmospheric. It's something that's just like you can naturally fear and picture happening.
Wow.
So we love
what
color love
we have
semen.
this conversation about the aura, the atmosphere around the disappearance of these three men, and then you have to bring up whether I like semen or not.
Well, you do like semen.
I like sailing. Semen, they're a part of it. Yeah, so that's our episode for this set of weeks. We'll see you in probably 2 more, maybe 3 more. Let us know if you have any ideas for topics you want us to cover. We kind of got really in depth with the last 2-parter, and we took a little bit of a step back to cover more of an eerie tale with a little bit less going on.
For sure. Yeah. Follow us on Instagram at an Anomalous Podcast. Follow me on TikTok, MSS4, aka Queef Latina.
Queef Latina.
And yeah, have a good day. Hope you enjoyed this and continue to prep to get your body, mind, and spirit ready for just the bigger and better things we're going on to. We're just keeping it going.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, believe in me. The only hair I have on my body, believe in this, the only hair I have on my body after this chemo, I reshave my head, I shave the rest of my body, and all I have is a mustache that like water falls down past my lip, past my mouth, almost to my chin. And then I climb up in a lighthouse and you never see anything but my eyes peering out from behind the glass. Believe in that and believe in yourself.
What if I don't want to believe in that?
You have to, because I said it at the end of the show.
I do?
Mm-hmm. That's how this works.
Fuck. All right. Well, believe in eagles from Lord of the Rings, but evil. Believe in yourself, and most importantly, believe victims.
Oh, very good.
Oh, yeah.
And if I can have a third, believe in dollar store and leprechauns, aka lesbians, and believe in yourself.
Oh, my Lord.
It's been Anomalous. See you in a couple weeks.
It's been a fun time. Bye. My bitch.
Bitch. I like these new microphones, bitch.